Around Easter of 1900, a sponge diver named Elias Stadiatis sank roughly 45 meters beneath the Aegean Sea wearing a canvas suit and a copper helmet. Minutes later, his crew hauled him back to the surface in a panic. He was raving about a heap of rotting corpses and dead horses scattered across the seafloor. His captain, Dimitrios Kondos, figured the depth had scrambled the man's mind, so Kondos pulled on the helmet himself and went down to look. He came back up clutching a human arm. It was bronze. The corpses were statues. The divers had found a Roman-era shipwreck packed with looted Greek treasure resting off the rocky island of Antikythera between Crete and the Peloponnese. And buried somewhere in that cargo was a corroded lump of metal about the size of a shoebox that nobody would look at twice for years. That lump took more than a century to decode. Scientists have now finished the job, and the answer is worse than anyone expected. Because the most sophisticated machine of the ancient world, the device we call the world's first computer, may never have worked at all. Or it worked with a precision we still can't fully measure. Both possibilities should unsettle you, and by the end of this story you'll see why the real tragedy was never about the gears. First, the treasure had to come up, and the sea made everyone pay for it. From November of 1900 into 1901, the sponge divers worked the wreck alongside the Hellenic Navy in one of the first underwater archaeology operations in history. They were diving deep on compressed air, decades before anyone understood decompression stops. A diver named Georgos Kritikos died. 2 more came up paralyzed. By the summer of 1901, the work stopped. The haul that reached the National Archaeological Museum in Athens was staggering. A bronze youth, marble horses, glassware and jewelry, and that shoebox-sized lump of green, crumbling bronze, which was shelved like a souvenir nobody wanted. Think about that for a moment. Men died bringing up this cargo, and the single most important object in it was the one thing everyone ignored. Then, in May of 1902, a museum man named Stace noticed something in one of the split-open lumps that should not have been possible. A gear. A precisely cut bronze gear wheel with tiny Greek letters inscribed beside it. He suggested it might be part of an astronomical clock, and his colleagues essentially laughed him out of the room. In their world, that was the only reasonable response. Precision gearing did not exist in ancient Greece. It could not exist. Some argued the thing must have fallen into the wreck centuries later because the alternative broke the entire timeline of technology. So the fragments went back into obscurity, and there they sat for 50 years. The gear was real. The problem was that no one alive had a shelf in their mind to put it on. The man who finally built that shelf was a British science historian at Yale named Derek de Solla Price. The object hooked him in 1951 and never let go. In 1971, Price and a Greek nuclear physicist named Charalampos Karakalos fired gamma rays and X-rays through the 82 surviving fragments, and the pictures that came back showed a nest of hidden gears, layer upon layer, with countable teeth. Price published his findings in 1974 and called the device a calendar computer. Here is the detail that should stop you cold. One of those hidden gears carried 223 teeth. 223 months is the Saros cycle, the rhythm Babylonian astronomers used to predict eclipses. Someone in ancient Greece had cut the mathematics of the heavens directly into bronze. 30 years later, the machines used to study the machine got serious. In 2005, researchers rolled an 8-ton X-ray scanner, a machine built to hunt for microscopic cracks in jet turbine blades, into the museum in Athens. The scans revealed at least 30 surviving gears and something better. Thousands of tiny Greek characters hidden inside the corrosion. The device had come with its own instruction manual, engraved on its plates, unread for 2,000 years. It tracked the sun and moon. It predicted eclipses and even flagged whether they'd be solar or lunar. It counted down the 4-year cycle of the Pan-Hellenic Games, Olympia, Nemea, Isthmia, Pythia, like a sports calendar bolted onto an observatory. In 2021, a team at University College London published a working model of the front display, a mechanical cosmos showing the sun, the moon, and all 5 planets known to antiquity. The planetary gearing is still a hypothesis because those parts don't survive. But the picture seemed complete. Ancient genius, fully decoded, case closed. Except the case was not closed. The 2 discoveries that would flip this entire story were still coming. And the first one came from the last place academia expected. Not from a university, from a machinist's workshop on the other side of the world. An Australian craftsman named Chris Budiselik, known online for building a working replica of the mechanism using only tools the ancient Greeks could have owned, got suspicious about a century-old assumption. Everyone said the calendar ring had 365 holes, one for each day of the Egyptian year. Nobody had ever actually tested that. So he and his colleagues measured the surviving holes and published the data. Then, in 2024, two physicists at the University of Glasgow, Graham Wone and Joseph Bailey, picked up those measurements and ran them through the same statistical machinery used to find gravitational waves, the ripples in space-time made by colliding black holes. Their answer: the ring almost certainly held 354 holes, a Greek lunar calendar, not an Egyptian one. But the number of holes wasn't the bombshell. The bombshell was how the holes were made. Each one had been drilled by hand, in bronze, with an average deviation from a perfect circle of 28 thousandths of a single millimeter. That is a fraction of the width of a human hair. Whoever built this machine worked at a level of precision that watchmakers wouldn't rival for many centuries. Hold on to that number, because it's about to collide with everything. In April of 2025, two physicists in Argentina, Esteban Sigueri and Gustavo Arenas at the National University of Mar del Plata, did what no one had quite done before. They built a full computer simulation of the mechanism in motion, combining its strange triangular gear teeth with the manufacturing errors researchers had measured in the actual surviving gearwork. The triangular teeth turned out to be fine. The spacing errors were not. According to the simulation, the gears would jam or slip apart before the solar pointer could advance the equivalent of 120 days. 4 months, and the marvel of the ancient world grinds to a halt. Some headlines went further and asked whether the world's first computer was really just an elaborate toy. The researchers themselves are far more careful. Their study is a preprint, not yet peer-reviewed, and they say plainly that the results must be interpreted with caution. But the dilemma they uncovered is real, and it cuts deep. Either the mechanism never truly functioned, or the errors we measure today are not the errors it was built with. And that second possibility is where the whole story folds in on itself. Those gears have spent 2,000 years on the seafloor. The bronze is no longer even bronze. Corrosion has transformed it into a different mineral, warping and shrinking the very surfaces the simulation depends on. So we may be judging the machine by its corpse. And remember the calendar ring. The same physical object shows hand-drilled holes accurate to 28 thousandths of a millimeter, right alongside gearwork that supposedly couldn't run 4 months. Both of those facts come from the same workshop, and they can't easily both be true. A craftsman capable of that ring doesn't seem like a craftsman who ships a machine that seizes on the first crank. That's the paradox we're left holding. We finally decoded what the machine says. We still can't decode what the machine was. But here's the part that is genuinely worse, and it's true no matter which side of that dilemma you take. Nothing of comparable mechanical complexity appears anywhere on Earth for roughly 1,400 years afterward, not until the great astronomical clocks of medieval Europe. We don't know who built it, maybe the workshop tradition of Rhodes, where the Roman writer Cicero claimed his friend Posidonius built a device that reproduced the motions of the sun, moon, and planets. Maybe Syracuse, in the shadow of Archimedes. Maybe Corinth. Whoever it was, their knowledge died. The device never reached whoever paid for it. It went down with the ship, and so did people. In 2016, excavators found a human skeleton at the wreck, a young man they nicknamed Pamphilos, after a name scratched into a wine cup from the site. He's been waiting there, beside the machine, for 2,000 years, and the excavation is still going on today. So the real story was never that the ancients built a computer. It's that humanity built one, lost it, and then took 14 centuries to build another. An entire branch of the future sank off a rocky island, and no one on shore ever knew it was gone. That is the fragility of knowledge. It doesn't announce its own extinction. It just stops being passed on. So here's the question to leave you with. If the mechanism worked, we lost the most advanced machine on Earth for 1,400 years. If it never worked, someone in the ancient world imagined a machine so far beyond their own tools that reality couldn't keep up. Which of those do you find more haunting? Tell me in the comments. And if stories like this one are your kind of thing, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure you don't miss the next one.